Giancarlo Fisichella has skidded his way to pole position in Austria, a thrilling session. The Arrows have done pretty well as well, with Mika Salo in 6th place. Let's have a word with the Arrows team boss, Tom Walkinshaw. He talks now to Louise.
Behind one of the Jordans, but yeah, we're happy with it, obviously.
Do you think you can sustain this level of performance tomorrow?
I think it'll depend on what sort of day it is. I think you saw in the practice session here, if it's wet, it really depends on how wet it is when the balance swings between the two tyre companies. If it's dry, then I think we're quite good shape because we've got the hard tyres on it, so I think we're in good shape for the dry.
Well done for today. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Well done to Tom Walkinshaw and to Arrows, and the forecast, just to remind you, is pretty good for tomorrow. Things happen in this game in the wet, Tony, don't they?
It's a great leveler, you see. What happens is the cars lose lots of their downforce. They lose lots of their sort of aggressiveness and roughness, and they're sliding all over the place. That's why it's a topsy-turvy grid, but you're seeing a lot of skill up towards the front. People like Alazy there in 2nd place, who's briefly been on pole position. Fisichella on his very first pole position, showing talent because he was smooth and fast. Despite some horrendous spins, we saw him all over the place at one stage.
We did, although he's had a good day leading up to today as well, hasn't he, Fisichella? But, I mean, Damon Hill took a bit of a chance. He went out early, and how wise a decision has this proved to be for Damon?
Well, it's not in the end because he's dropped to 15th, but they have said that this is a lottery, and Damon at this time when he went out, it was a very, very brave move indeed. They've got a bit of a difficult situation between the full wets on Goodyear, which Damon is not happy with, and the intermediates, which they wanted to use. But I still think that was a brave performance. It hasn't paid off. You just had to go for it today.
Yeah. We saw lots of people sliding around all over the place, as we expected, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen and then spectacularly Jack Villeneuve had their moments.
Jack Villeneuve and Heinz-Harald Frentzen, they're not particularly brilliant in the wet, especially Villeneuve, but Frentzen here is showing again why he's being dropped from the Williams team this year. Now there's Villeneuve going off. He has been absolutely hopeless in the wet, I have to say, and he lost it very, very early and goes off at the Remus curve and miles into the gravel trap. Here, all on your own. He again is not happy with the Goodyear wet weather tyres, but I think his style is a little bit too aggressive for the wet. He's not smooth enough, and there's the result, off into the trap.
He'd be embarrassed by that, wouldn't he?
Very, very upset by that, especially as he announced, you know, this brave new move to go off with BAR, and the team won't be pleased with that. But
Frentzen just finishing up in 7th place, that's not too bad for him. When it rains, you automatically look towards Michael Schumacher. For quite a long time, it looked as though the old Rainmaster was going to deliver again, not to be, though.
Yeah, I mean, there were 7 changes here, and at one point we thought, well, Michael Schumacher could get his first pole position since Hungary last year, which would have been great, and as you know, it's been McLaren all year long. Again, he was looking very, very good indeed, but the track was just drying out. That's what we said at the beginning of the program. If it does dry out, and look, he was getting some good grip there into turn 1. He was managing to get that Ferrari to turn in very, very nicely indeed.
Yeah. You know, in Silverstone, his younger brother Ralph gave a fantastic performance to get a point after starting right at the back of the grid. And for a little while here, we had a touch of history, perhaps not to be the 2 brothers on the front row of the grid for the first time.
But the thing is, he's had such an awful season, and yet at Silverstone, in the first lap, he took 7 places. It was an absolutely unbelievable performance. And he should be a Brit, really, shouldn't he? When his back's to the wall, he does his sort of best performance. And again, here today, he was very smooth indeed. There's the dry bit of the track. He was out on the inters there. And Ralf Schumacher, who's got the only point for the Jordan team this year, but yet, despite that, there's talk about him leaving the team and even going to Prost or to Sauber, and there's Alazy driving in the Sauber with a Petronas engine. They've announced they're having Ferrari engines again next year, but Alazy loves the wet. He revels in that. He's an absolute star when it comes to wet weather driving. And for 13 seconds just after the end there, he was still on pole, but obviously it then tumbled to Fisichella just fractions of a second after that.
They played their cards really well, those Benetton boys, didn't they?
Perfect timing, I have to say, on there, and that's very, very good job indeed from the whole team. And Nick Worth, who's the designer, has done a great job getting back. They lost a tremendous amount of grip in the last 2 races, and we mustn't forget Fisichella had a big crash in Monza testing last week, and Fisichella, there he is going for his very first ever pole position, and the last pole position for Benetton was actually Alazy at Monza last year, which was a great performance by him. But this young Italian is a star. You can see why they love him. He's going to make it.
It's a very unusual looking grid. Fisichella and Benetton, both on the front row. Fisichella and Alesi, brilliant for them. Hakkinen, still the championship favourite, looming. Michael Schumacher right behind him. Rubens Barrichello, excellent stuff from the Stewarts and the Arrows. Down there in 8th, Eddie Irvine. David Coulthard down there, 14th. Damon Hill, 15th. And Johnny Herbert in 18th place. So what are your thoughts on the race tomorrow, Tony?
Well, I think Hakkinen's not in too bad a position, really, but right behind him is Michael Schumacher, but they've got to break through that front rank if they can. Alesi's going to be a hard man to pass. You know, there's lots of straights here, but they're very, very tight corners, so they'll be looking to try and get inside. I think it's going to be tremendous, very exciting indeed, and, you know, this championship battle is going to be played out behind other drivers.
Yeah, do you think Fisichella's got the bottle to hold on there?
Well, he didn't have in Monte Carlo last year. He kept dropping back, but that was in wet weather conditions. The forecast is good, and Wirtz has been speaking to the farmers, and that's the only real yardstick around here.
Yeah.
So I think he could do it, yeah, he could stay out there.
And we were looking to David Coulthard just trying to produce something here. Well, he's got it all to do now.
I'm afraid so. His championship hopes are in tatters, and really the best he can do is go for a win. But to do it from back there, the weather's going to have to play into his hands, and some great timing is going to have to come into play.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed, Tony. OK, let me just point you towards this afternoon F1 special, the Murray and Martin show at 4:30 this afternoon. They've been with Gerhard Berger, great Austrian hero. Special features on Damon Hill's wife, Georgie, and Eddie Irvine's sister, Sonia, the Ferrari physio. Celebrity golf as well. And the Austrian Grand Prix tomorrow, race day tomorrow. Our build-up starts at 12:20. Of course, off in 40 minutes after that race day, 12:20 on our ITV tomorrow. There we are. And our highlights, reaction analysis at 10:45. Well, what a session. If the Austrian Grand Prix is as good as qualifying, that'll do for us and for you, I'm sure. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.